At this time. The chair now recognizes the gentle lady from Minnesota, Ms. Bachmann, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if Ms. DeRougy would like to make her comment right now, I'd be more than happy to let her make her comment. If you'd like to make your comment, Ms. DeRougy, that you wanted to make your comment right now during the course of my time.
Thank you. Based on the discussion, I think it is important to remember that the bank itself only justifies 30% of its activity based on the need to countervail foreign subsidies. So the idea that everything that the bank does is to compete with foreign government is not accurate based on the bank's data itself. And finally, I will say that we're talking a lot about jobs, we're talking a lot about businesses, but we're forgetting consumers. Protectionism, which is what the EXIM Bank is doing, hurts consumers in the form of higher prices, and economists care about producers and consumers too. And I think we have many years of economic studies that show that basically protectionism tends to the benefit, even for the beneficiary of the protectionism, does not outweigh the cost to all the unseen victims.
Thank you so much. That goes to my point. A lot of what I've heard here today is that we need to continue to provide subsidies and stay on the subsidy train because the rest of the world is on the subsidy train. And to continue that logic means that nations of the world have to continue one-upsmanship on subsidy. And so it's subsidy versus subsidy, and it's a complete rejection of the free market. I don't think that's the direction we want to go. The free market has built up the most magnificent economies of this world. I remain a defender of the free economy. One of our former presidents said that nothing is more representative of eternal life than a government program. And I think we heard the defenders today here of this program despite the mismanagement, despite the fraud, despite the failures. We have an executive summary in front of me that says, as a matter of fact, the Export-Import Bank operated a loss every year from 1982 to 1995. And when reform was passed, the FCRA, that meant then that the losses were backfilled by the taxpayer, and EXIM Bank received $9.92 billion in direct appropriations from the government between 92 and 96. When we talk about free economies, the United States used to be considered under the category of a free economy. We are not the freest economy in the world. We're not the 5th freest economy in the world. We're not even the 10th freest economy in the world. We have actually fallen out of the status called free economy. We've now dropped out of the top 10. We're considered a mostly free economy. And while the fault isn't at the foot of the EXIM Bank, it is death by 1,000 cuts. This is just one example. And I think that Congress needs to look at itself in the mirror and to see what we have done to contribute to a less free economy. And I think there are 4 areas. One is we have the highest, look at the corporate tax, look at the tax code in the United States. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, bar none, 35%. Then you add on to that the Obama new tax rate, the 3.8%, various state corporate tax rates, and you see how uncompetitive the United States is. We need massive tax reform. Then you look at the next factor, regulatory burden. Dodd-Frank was brought up today. Obamacare was brought up today. The new EPA rules are new regulations. We have heaped upon American businesses the uncompetitive factor of tax rate, you might say, through increased regulatory burden. That's number 2. Number 3 is the United States government, which has exceeded growth beyond the taxpayer's ability to pay for government services. We are growing the cost of government. And number 4, the lack of sound money. We have seen, through what the Federal Reserve has been doing, the increased inefficiency with sound money. Those 4 reasons alone aren't your fault. Those are the fault of the United States Congress and this government. We are the ones who need to look in the mirror at how we have made this a less free economy. Regarding the Export-Import Bank and the 4 firings that just occurred, that also doesn't include the 74 cases since April of 2009 when bank officials were forced to act on the basis of integrity investigations by the Office of Inspector General. There are dozens of other fraud cases involving the XM beneficiaries that have now been referred to the Department of Justice for prosecution. I see that my time is gone, but I will enter into the record several recent stories about the fraud that's going on at this bank.
Without
I want to
objection.
stand on record. I oppose the continuation of this bank because reform hasn't worked. We've been ignored.
Time of the gentlelady has